From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join this special edition of The Exchange, where we take bold steps to protect our planet as we celebrate Earth Month. Because your business is our business. As the world responds to the pandemic to protect and save lives, medical and hazardous wastes are piling up, overwhelming cities, choking the world's oceans, and reaching even in the most remote places on Earth. As we celebrate Earth Month, we take a moment to have a hard look at how our country plans to manage this serious garbage problem, a major concern even before this pandemic hit. The Philippines is the fourth largest source of solid waste in Southeast Asia and the world's third biggest dumper of plastics in the ocean. How can we, Filipinos, help reuse, reduce, and recycle? And the synergy of local governments and businesses in solving the garbage issue, shaping the landscape of sustainable development in our C-Suite vision. $14.6 million metric tons. That is the volume of trash our country churns out every year. Not to mention the additional waste generated during this pandemic. How does the government plan to solve this looming garbage crisis? Let's now have an environmental exchange with Undersecretary Jonas Leones. Yusek, maraming salamat po for joining us. 40 million metric tons, and then you have 52,000 metric tons of hospital waste. That's equivalent to 2 million sacks of rice. How big of a problem is this?
Actually, Rico, that's a very good question. We have been confronted by this surge or increase in the garbage generation of our people, of our country, especially during the time of the pandemic. So what we're doing now is really we are closely coordinating with the local government units. As you have said in your presentation, the local government units really play a vital role in really addressing this garbage problem. But of course, aside from technical assistance, we need also financial support and massive information drive to our people so that they will be aware on how we can really dispose and how they can get rid of this medical waste, especially during this pandemic.
Yusek, let's listen now to Ramon San Pascual of Healthcare Without Harm on how huge this problem of medical waste is.
Oh, it's huge. In certain hospitals na tutulungan po namin ng mga miyembro ng Global Green and Healthy Hospital Network, doon sa unang palo po ng pagtaas ng kaso last year, they reported around 70 to 90 up to 100% increase sa medical waste that are mostly plastic. Parang ang nagaganap po habang tumataas ang kaso, tumodoble, tumitriple ang volume ng basura na naiipon sa mga hospital at ganoon na rin po sa ating mga tahanan dahil we use some protection na karamihan po ay plastic.
So Yusek, you mentioned earlier that we need the cooperation of the local government units with the national government. How are you then, together with the LGUs, disposing of all of this waste?
Actually, I just want to clarify the waste natin, Rico. No? There are two types of waste here. You mentioned by the person who speak ahead of me. Let's talk of the medical waste. When it comes to medical waste, there's a specific treatment on how we address the disposal of medical waste because this is our hazardous waste. But the other waste, these are medical waste, the non-pathological waste coming from the household. Ito yung mga PPEs natin na hindi naman na kailangan talagang masyadong i-treat to. So in the case of medical waste, so we are coordinating with the hospitals, no? we consider them as generators, and they register this waste in our department, and then we provide assistance and then permits on how to dispose this waste. And there is treatment required before they can finally dispose this waste. On the other hand, itong mga medical waste, itong waste naman galing sa mga households, these are really the responsibility of the local government units. So what we're doing there is that together with them, we are assisting them technically and some financially so that they can get rid of those waste. Like for example, we are linking them with donors, banks, so that they can put up their own landfills where they can dispose this medical waste. Or if the local government cannot afford to establish their own landfills, we undertake clustering of the different local government units, wherein several local government units will be combining the resources to put or establish their own landfills, wherein they can dispose their household waste, like this face mask or face shield and so on.
Yusek, we have a solid waste management law which has been in place for 20 years. Pero bundok-bundok pa din ang basura natin. Is there a failure in implementing this law?
Actually, the Solid Waste Management Act, yung RA 9003, is a good law. But of course, like other laws, we need to update also this law. No? This was passed in 2000, and a lot of things happened. There are already new technologies on how to dispose this kind of waste. That's the reason why we've been consistent in the department that maybe using this or implementing this 9003 combined with new technologies on how to get rid of this waste may be feasible and possible so that we can finally dispose this waste. I'm specifically referring to the waste to energy project. In other countries, they have been implementing this waste to energy. But ironically, in the Philippines, we're still banning the use of technology to address our garbage problem. So I think if we can amend or revise some provisions of 9003 to include the waste to energy projects, I think we can adequately address this kind of problem, Rico.
But when will this be updated? The solid waste management law?
For now, based on our implementation of 9003, what is banned in the Clean Air Act or Solid Waste Management Act are those technology that make use of incineration. We found some avenue wherein we can implement waste to energy project that will not be violative of the provision of the 9003 on incinerations. What we're doing now is that we allow some industries to use non-burn technology to address their garbage problem. So I think some local government units are also doing this now because they're now experiencing the increased volume of garbage in their areas. So combined with the reuse, reduce, and recycling, some of the residuals from the garbage are now being disposed through non-burn technology, Rico.
Thank you so much for this environmental exchange, Undersecretary Jonas Leones. And now here's a rundown of the week's top business stories. Moody's gave the Philippine banking system a stable outlook despite high asset risks due to this pandemic. The country's top business groups want Chinese militia vessels out of the West Philippine Sea, and Grab is merging with a special purpose acquisition company for its $40 billion US stock market debut. And you're watching a special edition of The Exchange as we celebrate Earth Months. Is it possible to live a zero waste life? We'll be speaking to a couple who has been doing so for 5 years. And this shoe brand wants to resell your old kicks to help reduce waste footprint. Details straight ahead on CNN Philippines. News you can trust.
Pinupukod lang yung plastic, saka yung nabubulok. Dinadakot ng dustpan, binawalis, tapos nalagay ko sa sako o basurahan.
Araw-araw kasi dumadaan naman yung truck, collector. So wala naman kami problem sa pagtatapon ng basura dito.
Inisa-isa, nilalabas namin, itilalagay sa sako, nabubulok tsaka di nabubulok.
Glad you're staying with us for this Earth Month special on The Exchange, where your business is our business. Top American companies are drumming up climate action in the second biggest carbon emitter in the world. In an open letter, over 300 investors and businesses called on U.S. President Joe Biden to take more aggressive steps and cut greenhouse gas emissions by at least half in 10 years. Signatories include sports apparel giant Nike, retail chain Walmart, and beverage company Coca-Cola. We have grown accustomed to using products and just disposing them after they're worn out. What we do not know is a lot of the trash end up in the ocean, breaking down into tiny bits and enter our food chain. A study by the World Wildlife Fund suggests that you may be consuming 2,000 microplastics every week, which is equivalent to the weight of a pen that you are currently using. Or, let's take a look at this dice, which you use for your favorite board game. Or, that credit card in your wallet. Experts say tiny bits of plastic are already in our food, water, and in the air. What can we do to help solve this massive plastic problem? Let's now have an exchange with a couple leading a zero-waste lifestyle, Monique Obligacion and Rocco Mapua. Thank you so much for joining us. Monique,
Hi, everybody.
Monique, just taking a look at all of those facts that I just read makes me feel sad on what we have really done to our environment. Every waste that we dispose of has an impact on you, me, and our personal well-being.
Well, the first thing that we need to realize is that there's really no proper way to dispose of trash, especially plastic, because it doesn't matter where or how we get rid of the waste. Once we produce it, it's there, and it's going to outlive our children, our children's children. And what we really need to do is focus on waste prevention more than waste management. So, what we do is
we practice zero waste. We refuse what we don't need. We reduce our consumption. Reuse whatever we've got. Recycle only what we can't refuse, reduce and reuse first, and then rot and compost the rest.
But Rocco, this pandemic lockdown has kept many of us at home. Just like yourselves, you're there at home right now for this interview. And with that, a lot of online purchases from food to home essentials. How bad is this waste that we've accumulated from home during this pandemic?
I'd imagine it's pretty bad, given that how the couriers package the product that we buy. I mean, it comes in a box, it's taped up, and then it's put in a plastic bag to top it off.
Yeah. So us, for our household, we actually just avoid online shopping like the plague. Whenever we shop for anything, we only shop really for what we super duper need, super bare essentials. And then we avoid online shopping because by default, if you get it from any of the apps or the systems that currently do deliveries,
right,
provide essentials at home, they're just wrapped by default in a lot of stuff.
But Monique, what do you do then with the medical waste? I mean, the masks, the face shields, and the medicine packaging.
Honestly, because we don't produce those, we use reusables instead. So we don't produce that kind of waste. So for most people, for masks, also our face shields, we have a reusable one that's attached to a hat. But for most people, something that they could probably do at the very least is eco-brick it, because you can't have that floating around. not just like a hazard, like, I don't know, like medical waste wise, but also because it's non-biodegradable and it's just going to be floating around and it's going to wind up in our oceans, whether or not we dispose of the stuff properly. Because a lot of our landfill waste, or supposed landfill waste, because we're an archipelago and our dump sites have one way or another like access to waterways, it's still going to wind up in the ocean.
And both of you, Rocco and Monique, you're into waste management rather than, you're into waste prevention rather than waste management. Can you share with us some examples on how we can do this at home?
Okay, so we mentioned like we avoid online shopping like the plague, right?
Right.
So before the pandemic, we'd go buy our fruits and vegetables from the market. We eat a plant-based diet, so we don't really eat meat to avoid carbon emissions as well. But we use a lot of reusables instead. So we don't use any disposable stuff. Like we don't use like toilet paper, for example. Instead, we have panyo, so we have a bidet. We don't buy tissue Kleenex. We don't buy disposable menstrual products. So and stuff like this, which is a machine washable pasador, which you only have to buy once, or if you don't have the money to buy one, you can make one, and then it's you just keep washing that, and you don't expose your body to all the chemicals that are put in disposables, and at the same time you don't have basura.
Right. Briefly share with us, has it been a difficult journey to this zero waste lifestyle?
I wouldn't say it's difficult. There have been a lot of sacrifices, yes. But there are also benefits to it. So, for example, when we switched to a plant-based diet, we noticed immediately that there has been a health benefit. We get tired less. We actually feel stronger, even if we're a little bit more sedentary than we used to be.
And plus, like with the pandemic and all, consider like all of the health benefits that you're gonna get.
Thank you so much to both of you for this sustainable lifestyle exchange. Monique Obligacion and Rocco Mapua. Well, more of our kababayans are finding creative ways to lessen waste. Jing Kalungtong gave her instant noodle cups a new life. The netizen is using these cups for her growing plantita collection. Well, do you need a place to put your jewelry, trinkets, and other small items? Well, local brand Mold It has dishes made from 100% recycled paper. And believe it or not, these home decorations were once broken toys and plastic bottle caps. The dog statue was made by a Payatas eco artist, while the golden basket was created by Sheila Jane Arpon Buya. And you're watching The Exchange, where your business is our business. Straight ahead, more stakeholders are investing in better waste management practices, how local governments and the private sector are shaping the landscape of sustainable development. And sports apparel giant Nike wants your old pair of shoes back for a cause. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. Thank you so much for staying with us for this Earth Month special on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Nike wants your pre-loved shoes for an environmental cause. The U.S. footwear giant will be cleaning and reselling at bargain prices pairs bought within 60 days that have been gently worn or have factory flaws. Nike says this is to help reduce its waste footprint. Waste management plays a huge role in keeping the environment safe, especially during a health crisis. How can local governments and businesses better move forward on this cause? Let's now have an exchange with Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte and Business for Sustainable Development Executive Director Bonar Laureto. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Mayor, let's start off with you. How is Quezon City investing in better waste management?
Well, first and foremost, Quezon City never scrimps on waste management. We have a budget of about 1.8 billion pesos that is allocated towards managing our waste. No? And we have partnered with contractors that have new trucks and new technologies to ensure that all of the wastes in our city are well managed. No? So, so far, when you talk about a waste problem, I don't see that happening in Quezon City at the moment because of the investments that we have made and the new technologies that we have adopted. For example, given the COVID pandemic, I mean, we've been able to cope with this given the fact that people are home, they produce more waste in their households, and there are more infectious waste, and still we're able to cope with these additional sources of waste, no? Given our current setup.
So how are you disposing of this medical waste, Mayor, together with plastic bags and single-use plastics?
Well, first of all, no, with regards to medical wastes, there are DNR guidelines that we follow. So I think what happens is when wastes are produced in households, let's say from among COVID positive patients, or what we call special concern lockdowns, where we lock down whole skinitas, compounds, streets who have exhibited community transmission of the disease, we have a special crew dressed in PPEs, special trucks that collect these infectious wastes. Okay, and then these are subject to the different guidelines that are mandated by the DNR before they go to the landfill. So that's how we care for or we look after our infectious waste. No? And then with regards to plastics, I think we are one of the very first cities in the Philippines that has passed a complete ban on plastic bags. And we are going to be implementing, starting July of 2021, a complete ban as well of all disposable materials. Because the ultimate goal is to lessen the amount of waste that goes into the waste stream. Because as you know, Quezon City is one of the greatest plastic waste producers, and because of that, this goes into our seas, affects our marine life, and eventually affects the way we eat and our health. And we want to be a contributor to making these changes happen.
Bonar, how has the private sector been proactive in better waste management practices?
A lot of things are happening as far as recovery and ensuring that these materials don't end up in nature. But I think where we are involved in BSD is that we're looking at it from a systems dimension, meaning we're looking at it from all angles, not just the recovery, but also in the transition to more recyclable packaging. So we're studying the nature of this packaging, what the structures, chemical compositions are, and how exactly they can be used as a resource. Now, if we start to look at waste as resource that rather than a reliability, then it changes the dimension of the conversation and it becomes value adding to the economy. And as soon as we have the infrastructure for recovery and diversion and transformation of this waste into value adding products, then it stops to become waste and it becomes more as an important material for our economy. And that's what private sector is moving towards.
So, Bonar, can you cite specific initiatives by the private sector in improving waste management?
All right. So, first step that we did was to understand how much is so we did a study to really understand how much waste is being generated from the packaging of these products that are being sold to the market. So we know now that there's about 300,000 metric tons that will actually is projected to increase to 500,000 metric tons a year in terms of packaging. And the second step was really to understand what are the structures of this packaging? Can they be recycled or not? And then we found out that some, about 60%, can actually be recycled. And those that cannot be recycled need to be shifted. So we're working with different companies to try to change the packaging to more recyclable ones. And the third step is really finding a way so that the producers can pay for the recovery, working with the already existing local waste stakeholders. They are now voluntarily really paying for the cost of recovery. so that these materials, when recovered, can be brought to recycling facilities. And there are a number of recycling facilities that exist that are actually now operational, where these materials are being brought into so that they can be processed into products. So we've done, for example, collection in 2 malls in Cavite, and several LGUs also, where private sector shouldered for the cost of recovery, and then it was brought to Malabon for processing, and now it became garbage bins or tabo and balde that can be sold of a certain value to the market. So through this, there's a volume that's actually being recovered and diverted into a product that would no longer likely end up in nature.
Mayor, the city has a trash to cash back initiative. How does this work?
So this is an initiative of the city wherein we encourage stakeholders, regular citizens, to trade in recyclable materials such as plastic or paper or even metal products in exchange for environmental points. And then when you get these points, we've partnered with various groceries and stores, etc. You present these points and you can exchange these points for basic commodities like vegetables, like rice, like sugar, like coffee, like eggs, etc. No? So it actually is a means for us to incentivize the people to first of all segregate at source, segregate their waste, and then think about their waste as a source of getting commodities, and then getting them to actually go to the stores and exchange them for things that are useful for them. And it's been very successful so far. So that's one of the initiatives of our city.
Thank you so much for this sustainable exchange, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte and Bonar Laureto, Executive Director of Business for Sustainable Development. The path to the better normal is clean and green. Here are some guiding words from Mark Schneider, the CEO of consumer giant Nestle. Consumers are putting more and more emphasis on environmental stewardship and transparency. Ignore their needs, and they will ignore our products. And this is the exchange. We make sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle. Thank you for joining us in taking bold actions to solve this waste crisis, because our business is building a better world. I'm Rico Hizon. This is CNN Philippines. News you can use. News you can trust.